Why Israel? Why Israel created Hamas? This is by Swiss Policy Research. This is sent by one of my comrades in Spain, and this is a very kind of disturbing article here. Um, as we guys know, October 7th, it didn't start then. The Zionist elites, the Israelis, have been terrorizing Palestinians and Arabs for 75 years. And when you terrorize people for years, of course, you're going to have groups that pop up that want to fight back. Hamas is one of those. However, things aren't what they seem. I want to say, so there's definitely people fighting back against the colonizers, Israel, and but it's like the more blood that shed, Israel can point the finger and like, look, we're not the oppressors. Look what they're doing to us, and then things kind of spiral from there. But I want to read a few. This is a very long article, guys. I am not going to read it all. I'm just going to read the juicy stuff for you, okay? Check out these quotes from Benjamin Netanyahu. Anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. U.S. diplomat and ambassador Charles Freeman, Israel started Hamas. It was a project of Shin Bet. Let's read the article now. Why Israel helped create Hamas. Since the founding of Hamas in 1987, Israeli, American, and Palestinian officials have repeatedly acknowledged that Israel did indeed help create and fund the Islamist group. The point made by many of these officials is not that Israel allowed the rise of Hamas, or that Hamas emerged in response to Israeli occupation of Palestine. Rather, their point was and is that Israel's intelligence agencies have actively helped create and finance the Hamas group. As the officials cited below make clear, the overall goal of supporting Hamas has been to thwart the creation of a Palestinian state and avert the implementation of a two-state solution to the Palestine question. From Israel's perspective, a two-state solution would reduce Israel's territory to the internationally recognized pre-1967 borders, prohibit any future territorial expansion, and prevent the recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital city. I'm going to read a couple more paragraphs here. More specifically, supporting the Islamist Hamas group has served several Israeli objectives at once. First, it undermined Yasser Arafat's secular nationalist PLO. Second, it helped prevent the implementation of the 1993 Oslo Accords. Third, it undermined the Palestinian National Authority and isolated Gaza from the West Bank. Fourth, it impeded Western support for the Palestinian cause. And fifth, it justified Israeli counterattacks on Palestinian territory. In other words, by secretly supporting a group that does not recognize the existence of the State of Israel and does not accept a two-state solution, Israel does not have to accept the existence of a Palestinian state and does not have to support a two-state solution either. It is sometimes argued that while Israel initially supported the creation of Hamas, the Islamist group got out of control and Israeli officials came to regret their support. The blowback theory. While this is certainly true for some Israeli officials and for the Israeli population affected by Hamas rockets and terrorist attacks, it is not true for Israeli grand strategists. As the quotes below make clear, for them, Hamas has continued to serve its intended purpose even after the Oslo Accords in 1993 and after Israel's withdrawal from the Gaza Strip in 2005. Let me read. So, here's a quote, let's see, by Yitzhak Segev, Gaza military governor. Let's read some quotes from this articles here. Already in 1986, 1 year before the official founding of Hamas, New York Times Jerusalem bureau chief David K. Shipler revealed how Israel supported the Islamic movement in the Gaza Strip that would give rise to the Hamas group. Referring to Israel's military governor of the Gaza Strip, Brigadier General Segev, Shipler noted in his book Arab and Jew, politically speaking, Islamic fundamentalists were sometimes regarded as useful to Israel because they had their conflicts with the secular supporters of the PLO. Violence between the groups erupted occasionally on the West Bank university campuses, and the Israeli military governor of the Gaza Strip, Brigadier General Segev, once told me how he had financed the Islamic movement as a counterweight to the PLO and the communists. The Israeli government gave me a budget, quote, and the military government gives to the mosque, he said. And let's see. In 81, Segev, Israel's military governor of Gaza, told me that he was giving money to the Muslim Brotherhood, the precursor of Hamas, on the instruction of the Israeli authorities. The funding was intended to tilt power away from both the communist and Palestinian nationalist movements in Gaza, which Israel considered more threatening than the fundamentalist. Judging by a distressed phone call I got later from the Army spokesperson, General Segev's superiors were not happy with his disclosure of a practice that did not look very clever even at the time. They thought incorrectly, but apparently wished that he had made his comments off the record. Now, we have more evidence, more quotes. We have Israeli intelligence whistleblowers. In 1992, Israeli military intelligence whistleblower Ari Ben Menashe revealed how Israeli intelligence agencies were using Palestinian terrorists to sabotage the Palestinian cause. Quote, the slush fund helped finance the intelligence community's black operations around the world. These included funding Israeli-controlled Palestinian terrorists who would commit crimes in the name of the Palestinian Revolution, but were actually pulling them off, usually unwittingly, as part of the Israeli propaganda machine. Whoa. And let's skip this paragraph. Let's skip this one. There's a couple more quotes, man, that are really juicy. And I don't want to read that one. And I think this is the one I wanted to read from. It's actually from the U.S. government themselves. All right. In a February 2001 article, American news agency UPI revealed how Israel gave major aid to Hamas, quote, quoting several current and former U.S. government and intelligence officials. Here we go. Israel and Hamas may currently be locked in deadly combat, but according to several current and former U.S. intelligence officials, beginning in the late 1970s, Tel Aviv gave direct and indirect financial aid to Hamas over a period of years. Israel, quote, aided Hamas directly. The Israelis wanted to use it as a counterbalance to the PLO, quote, said Tony Kordsman, Middle East analyst for the Center of Strategic Studies. Israel's support for Hamas, quote, was a direct attempt to divide and dilute support for a strong secular PLO, using up competing religious alternatives, said a former CIA official. Funds for the movement came from the oil-producing states and directly and indirectly from Israel, according to U.S. intelligence officials. The PLO was secular and leftist and promoted Palestinian nationalism. Hamas wanted to set up a transnational state under the rule of Islam, much like Khomeini's Iran. The thinking on the part of some of the right-wing Israeli establishment was that Hamas and the other groups, if they gained control, would refuse to have anything to do with the peace process and would torpedo any agreements put in place, said a U.S. government official. Quote, Israel would still be the only democracy in the region for the U.S. to deal with, he said. Former State Department counterterrorism official Larry Johnson told UPI, quote, the Israelis are their own worst enemies when it comes to fighting terrorism. They are like a guy who sets fire to his hair and then tries to put it out by hitting it with a hammer. They do more to entice and sustain terrorism than curb it. End quote. So, bam. So, I thought those were pretty juicy quotes, guys. So, Israel will definitely fund right wing extremists. They'll kind of like, oh, look, we got attacked. We got to have more billions of aid, U.S. We got to go in there and kill civilians. I mean, it's part of the game. It's all part of the plan. So, where maybe I'll read one or two more. All right, let's read this one. This is pretty good. Charles Freeman, U.S. diplomat and ambassador, 2006. In his 2006 book, Devil's Game: How the United States Helped Unleash Fundamentalist Islam, American investigative journalist Robert Dreyfus explored Israel's Islamists and quoted American diplomat and former U.S. ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Charles Freeman. Quote, Israel started Hamas, says Charles Freeman, the veteran U.S. diplomat and former U.S. ambassador to Saudi Arabia. It was a project of Shin Bet, the Israeli Domestic Intelligence Agency, which had a feeling that they can use it to hem in the PLO. More quotes, guys. Okay, check. This is good. Amos Yadlin, Israeli military intelligence chief, 2007. In June 2007, during the Battle of Gaza between Hamas and Fatah, the U.S. ambassador to Israel quoted Israeli Defense Intelligence Chief Amos Yadlin in a memo later published by WikiLeaks. Quote, although not necessarily reflecting a GOI, Government of Israel, consensus view, Yadlin said that Israel would be happy if Hamas took over Gaza because the IDF could then deal with Gaza as a hostile state. This article goes on, guys. I'm not going to... You guys kind of get the picture here, guys. Tons of more quotes. 9, 10, 11, 12. Even from Netanyahu himself, man. And it goes on, guys. 13. Dude, okay, and it's a little... This is still, like, relevant, but... Okay, Hamas is not the only designated terrorist group secretly created or supported by intelligence services. In fact, since World War II, most high-profile Palestinian, Islamist, and communist terrorist groups have to some extent been controlled by Western or Israeli intelligence services. It talks about how a terrorist named Abu Nidal, Carlos the Jackal Ramirez, Israel Mossad assets, guys. Isn't that wild, dude? Carlos the Jackal Ramirez, he's protected by American and British intelligence services. And part of the Red Brigades, Black September, Irish IRA were secretly training equipped in Libya by former CIA operatives and U.S. Army Special Forces. And this keeps going on, guys. Beginning in the 1980s, the CIA built up the infamous Al-Qaeda network of Islamist militants, including Saudi businessman Osama bin Laden, to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan, Operation Cyclone. Into the 1990s, the same group of Islamists were deployed to Bosnia and Kosovo and Yugoslavia to fight the Orthodox Christian Serbs, into Chechnya in the Caucasus to fight the Russians. And there's definitely more terrorist acts that they have links, guys. So I think that's all I want to read from this, guys. In conclusion, it says most of the history of modern terrorism, not just since 2001, but really since World War II, has been a deception manufactured by Western and Israeli intelligence services. So what have we learned, guys, from that article? I think it's very informative. You guys should definitely check it out. Just go Why Israel Created Hamas, Swiss Policy Research. If you Google that, you'll find that link. But I know Hamas is doing their part, taking out they're fighting back against the colonizers, U.S., Israel in the West, but you just got to understand that Israel had like, guys, when you terrorize somebody for 75 years, you're going to have groups that pop up to fight back. And the more war is good for business. So, and it's just really sad what's happening right now in the Middle East and Palestine. So,